Cincinnati, welcome to the Big 12 title conversation. What a couple of weeks for the Bearcats. They get a win 38-30 over Iowa State and hang on to do so, but they got it done. Lots of apologies to Scott Satterfield are owed here. I am going to man up to that, as I said that I would, but I think a lot of people across the country probably owe some apologies to Scott Satterfield. Heck of an effort by Iowa State after digging themselves an almost insurmountable hole. Cincinnati found a way to hang on despite another thing we're going to talk about here. How many flags? How many penalties did Cincinnati pick up today? I gotta see how many Cincinnati 13 penalties for 128 yards. After everything Cincinnati fans went through last week, Big 12 officials, you had to do it to them again. I kind of feel like Cincinnati should be awarded 3 wins for what they did in Lawrence and then at Nippert today against Iowa State each of the last 2 weeks. But hey, Cincy fans, there'll be plenty of time to complain about that. You should take time to enjoy this, man. Who was talking about Cincinnati coming into this year? And yet, here the Bearcats sit now at 4-1, 2-0 in the Big 12, a win at Kansas, a win over Iowa State, who looked like definitively, like easily, the second best team in the Big 12. I mean, this is so impressive. And it starts obviously with the first half, right? Cincinnati builds a 31-7 lead at one point. And it was all done with the ground game. Like, if you go look at the numbers from this game in the first half, man, in the first half, Cincinnati rushed for 216 yards, okay? 10 yards per carry, 20 rushes, 216 yards in the first half. Iowa State's defense has injury issues, no doubt. Absolutely. But it's really in the secondary. You're missing a couple starting corners, right? I don't know what happened to Iowa State up front in the first half, but that is basic. I mean, that's what lost you the game. Like, Cincinnati's offense went up and down the field just like they did in Lawrence. And man, so much of it was done on the ground. It was insane that Iowa State got gashed the way that they did as far as that is concerned. And, I mean, it was all the way across the board. Brendan Sorsby had 64 yards rushing and a touchdown. Like, whoever, Tyree Walker, whoever they wanted to get the ball to, Cincinnati was able to get the ball to very effectively running the ball today. Walker was 14 for 89. Let's see here. Why are you not coming off of Walker here? Evan Pryor, 10 for 111. Like, unbelievable effort for Cincinnati on the ground. And Iowa State flips the game on a very controversial call. I mean, this, absolutely, speaking of the penalties, could have been like a 21-point Cincinnati win at least, had that pass interference call not been made on the interception that Cincinnati got right before the half. I mean, that was a massive play, and it kept Iowa State in the game, and it seemed like that just really flipped the momentum. And I'm sure some of it was Iowa State and John Haycock making some adjustments at halftime, as they were so much better in the second half at stopping the run. I mean, crazy, staggering number in the second half, 44 yards. After 216 yards in the first half, just 44 yards rushing on 14 carries in the second half for Cincinnati. So, look, John Haycock's one of the best in the business. He's going to figure some things out eventually. But when you do that, plus you inject him with a couple of touchdowns for the offense before his defense even has to get back out there on the field, bookending halftime, yeah, that makes a massive difference. And there's a lot going on there. Look, I did not think that was pass interference. That seemed like a phantom call. And for Cincinnati fans who dealt with 4 touchdowns called back last week, the spot on the Jalen Daniels quarterback sneak, the return touchdown, like everything that happened in Lawrence, I'm sure you were just pulling your hair out at that, because you knew, like, Iowa State's good enough. You can't be giving them extra life like that. And Rocco Becht, I mean, give him a ton of credit. That dude is tough. He took one of the hardest hits that I've seen a player take this entire season. Not only got back in the game and played, but then has an incredibly tough touchdown run. It did not look like anything was there right before the end of the half, and he's able to keep his body up, reach across the goal line. It was a hell of a run. I mean, if Iowa State finds a way to come back and win that game, that's going on his all-time highlight reel for sure. Now, probably just gets kind of forgotten, but it was very emblematic of who he is as a player, and it was an unbelievable play. But yes, it definitely happened in the midst of controversy. I would have been very upset about that were I a Cincinnati fan. And then in the second half, after Iowa State's touchdown to bookend the half, okay, it just felt like from that point on, it was kind of it was just sort of a stalemate. And every time it looked like Cincinnati was going to make a big play and get something going, here comes some yellow laundry on the field. Up until the point where they finally break free. And it felt like watching that game, it was just like Cincinnati fans. I could just feel like the tension and being so frustrated. And then it's like you can exhale and it all comes out when you get to make it a legitimate 2-score game with an 82-yard touchdown pass that at the time, since he only had 135 yards of offense in the second half, and that was 82 of it, was the one play. And let's see. Cincy in the second half ends with 132 total yards, right? 82 of it came on one play. So this was build the lead up in the first half when Iowa State just could not stop the run to save their lives. Hang on, hold on for dear life in the second half and hit one play. And that's what you needed to win the game. So congratulations to Cincinnati for that. Congratulations to I feel so good for Brendan Sorsby, who, as much as we talk about like, hey, Rocco Becht is really tough, and he definitely is. I mean, Brendan Sorsby is tough as hell too. He looked like a pretty good quarterback last year, but at least at times, they had the hot start. And it felt like, hey, Sorsby actually, I mean, he definitely seemed like an upgrade from what you had the year before at Cincy. But I didn't think he had this in him. I didn't think he was capable of this. I mean, it's not as eye-popping a stat sheet for Sorsby in this game. 13 of 25, 214 yards, 2 touchdowns, 9 for 64 and a rushing touchdown. But I guess still you're close to 300 total yards. You're 3 touchdowns, no picks. That's pretty good if that's going to be not as impressive as what you did last week in Lawrence. So now we've got to totally adjust how we see things in the Big 12 based on this game. Obviously, yes, Cincinnati is now absolutely in the conversation in that top 4 of the Big 12 as a Big 12 contender. You have to put them in that category. What do you do with Iowa State is kind of an interesting question right now because they're starting to get banged up with the secondary injuries. I think you maybe wondered already, okay, do they have a high enough ceiling without each of their starting corners to be a Big 12 championship caliber team? My counter to that definitely was, look what happened to their linebacking core last year. They were decimated and still played for a Big 12 championship. Now it all fell apart once they had to go play Arizona State in Arlington, but they made it to a Big 12 championship. I think John Haycock is good enough, certainly, to do that. But this definitely reduces the margin of error quite a bit for Iowa State, having already lost this game. And now, you don't have a tiebreaker with Cincinnati. And hey, I'm looking at Cincinnati's schedule here. They've got Iowa State out of the way. They do not have Texas Tech. So Cincinnati's at home against UCF next week. They're at Oklahoma State after that. Those are both games that they should be significant favorites in. If you get to that point, you're 6-1, 4-0 in the Big 12. You've got Baylor at home, who eked out a win over K-State today, but Cincinnati has definitely looked like a better team so far this year than Baylor, and that game's going to be at Nippert. Going to Utah will be a real challenge. That'll be a very tough game for Cincinnati, but they've got Arizona at home, BYU at home, which I would think that game probably turns into a dogfight as well, and then you're at TCU to end the year. So I'm not saying this is paper thin easy for Cincy, but it's manageable. I mean, this is a manageable schedule the rest of the year for Cincy. So looking at this, I would say there are 3 games left that they'll be heavy favorites in. That would get you to 7 already. Even if you then split the other 4, you're talking about a 9-win season. And if you do a little better than that, you're talking about potentially playing for a Big 12 championship. So keep in mind, I mean, Cincinnati started really hot last year and things fell apart. This looks like an entirely different team. Totally different juice to this team than what happened last year when they started 5-2 and then lost 5 straight to end the year. I'm not trying to say this is like that at all, but we did see a Scott Satterfield team fall off a cliff last season. Some of that being schedule related as well. But congratulations to Cincy. I mean, I just did not think Scott Satterfield had it in him. There seemed to be no life to that program. It seemed like a weird hire from the start that had just gone sideways from the beginning, but they have figured it out. They've certainly figured out the offense. They went and just pushed around. I really want to emphasize how impressive it is to just push Iowa State around like that, even if it's just for a half, to get up on them 31-7. Man, I mean, that's a proud program that have been playing really well and playing good football this year. So congratulations to Cincy. I'm certainly not counting Iowa State out, but this definitely changes the tone and the tenor of the Big 12 race, where it felt like, hey, this is kind of Iowa State and Texas Tech's deal to lose. So we talked about this being like, not really, I was about to say separation Saturday. I don't think that's totally fair, but it was like, hey, you get your shot Saturday. All right. Shout out to my guys at the Solid Verbal, coming up with something for every Saturday. It was like, you get your shot Saturday for Cincinnati and Houston. We'll find out about Houston tonight against Texas Tech, but Cincinnati, they stepped through. They stepped through. They made it happen. They get the win. Impressive stuff. And I feel really good for Cincinnati fans who have just not had a whole lot going, football or men's basketball, in the Big 12 since entering the league. So I feel great for you guys. I hope to hear from you on the live show coming up tomorrow and throughout the week, throughout the season, as we continue to move on here. So anyway, congrats to Cincy, and please like the video, subscribe to the channel, make sure and tell your friends, subscribe to the Open for Business Big 12 newsletter, and I will talk to you guys all very soon.